Hey there YouTube, Sir Daniel 1975 here, and if you haven't figured out what my next project is, or my next video, or this video is, well, there you go. You see I got a blade blank here. This is a really nice blade blank. It is a, let me read the number on it. It is a 12C 27, and it is stainless steel. It's some kind of composite stainless steel, and I believe it's out of Sweden, and if I remember correctly, they're the ones that are doing this. There is a slight dent here, and that's for me. I've had this blade blank for over a year. It sat in the plastic cover, and I guess some moisture got in there, and there was a little bit of rust, and I had to really work at it, and I ended up having to take a grinder to it from the Dremel. In fact, let me show. I actually have still have that bit on to get the rust out. Yeah, I mean, I used, you know, the navel jelly and all that stuff like I normally do, but it was just extremely stubborn. So I don't know when that started, but I noticed it very recently that it had that. But anyway, I have oiled the blade. It's a really good blade. It's extremely sturdy. It's one of the strongest steels I've ever felt. I also have all the carving tools that one could need to carve out space for the tang. Plus, I have the Dremel tool to help me out with some of the other finer things. So, for shaping and whatnot, and sandpaper galore. So, that's what I'm going to do. It's going to be a neat little project. I've made knife handles before. I always go very primitive and functional. Some people prefer things to look a little bit more fancy than I do, but that's okay. It's for me, it's not for you. So anyway, this is something that anybody can do. If you want a nice knife and you can't afford to buy a really solid knife that's going to last you a long time, especially if you'd like to do outdoors, a perfectly good option is to buy a blade blank and to make your own handle for it. You're going to save tons of money on these things, because a knife, I know this isn't a carbon steel one, but a carbon steel one made by some of the really nice knife makers out there, you could spend as much as like $200 something on a knife that's really good. Although that would be one that isn't a rat tail tang, but a full tang. The tang is the same shape of the blade that goes all the way down, or maybe it has some contour shapes on it. But anyway, stay tuned and you'll get to see this as I work on it. Hey there YouTube, back here with the knife project. And I ended up cutting, whoops, didn't mean to kick the camera. And I ended up cutting off some actual wood from a 2x4 to make handle pieces, because the pieces that I cut, I don't know if to show up the camera, but they got way off in the cutting. There's a big all the way down to there. It's really bad, and got way off on the cutting. So it's not, because I don't have a bandsaw, so I can't cut it 100% straight, so I have to use hand tools, and it was a lot easier to get off. So using a 2x4, a piece like this, just a little, I cut it down to that by taking the sides off. And so this, I have enough to work with that I can sand it down, buzz it down, do some shaping, and then whittle out the opening for the knife. So I've given myself two ideas. I think I'm going to go with the second one, and I've added a little finger space here, so it's going to come out here and then come down like that. It's similar to the pocket knife that I carry most of the time. So I like that. It's very ergonomic in the hand. So anyway, that's what I'll be working on from here on out. So I'm going to work on thinning these down a little bit, and then I will trace out the where it needs to be carved on the inside, and then using these tools I will do that. So right there, YouTube, I've made a block with sandpaper on there for ease of sanding, and this is a really smart thing to do, especially when I want to sand against a flat surface. So you want to keep things flat, so you can either hold it by hand and go across it like so, or you can set it down and just rub it over it like that, which tends to work better. So that's what I'll be doing. Alright, YouTube, I have finished pretty much the majority of the tapering of the handles, so they're not too thick. And this way I have enough room to lay out the carved section for the tang, and then whatever else is entailed with that. I got to mark the hole for the screw, and then I've got to glue this together, and then I will work on, after that dries, then I will shape the handle and then insert the blade. Well, I actually might stain it and everything first before I insert the blade. So I don't know. We'll see how I'm thinking when I go along with this. I've done this kind of thing before, but it's been a while. So anyway, on the tools, obviously you saw the sandpaper block that I made, and of course fine grit sandpaper. Tool that did a lot of the big work was this. It's a Mora knife. Really inexpensive carbon steel knife, great for carving. This rasp or file did a lot of work, and of course a Dremel tool for some of the finer grinding. So anyway, I'm ready to do the next bit. Alright, next bit is I've got to cut this edge off the tang. So I'm going to use a Dremel tool with the cutter bit, or a cutting disc, I should say. And I'm also wearing safety goggles. So you can see what I'm doing here. Actually, I probably made that blurry, so let me okay. Alright, it's ready to be popped off just like that. And now the tang is the length that I want it to be. Okay, I'm in the middle of a mess here with a few things. But anyway, I have traced out the tang on the two pieces for the handle, and I've also made a cardboard cutout, which I'm not finished yet, of the shape of the handle, and I'm going to cut out the tang part so I can overlay it and make it the same on either knife handle spots. So, because I want to trace that out, hopefully it won't flex out too much when I am laying it down. Of course, this is just how I'm doing things. Nobody has to do it like me. You see, that's that piece. That's the piece I want for the right hand, against the palm of my right hand. So I want it to look like that. And of course, it's not dimensionally 100% because it's all done with tracing. Alright, so, and then what I'll do is I'll just give a rough trace of what's going to be removed. And then like that. So that'll be the for the handle. So I know where to make cuts and trims and stuff. And of course using a lot of the Dremel. Which, by the way, you don't have a Dremel tool and you do crafts and things, get a Dremel tool. Seriously. Very handy tool. So yeah, so that's one side, and I'll trace the other side and get going. Alright, YouTube, I have whittled out or carved out the center for the knife to sit, and it does close with it. And there you go. There is just a little bit of wiggle, which is fine because I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but the sealing process will be, well, not the sealing process, but when I put the blade in, I'm going to use, well, let me get it. And I've used this before, and I've had a lot of success. So, the thing about Gorilla Glue is it expands to fill in the gaps. So, basically all I'll have to do is just make sure the blade stays centered when I glue it. And then, of course, I'll have pre-made a hole for there, and I've actually picked it out. It's going to be a nail. And of course I'll trim the nail with the Dremel tool once it's in there. And there you go. So, alright, it's moving right along. Okay there, YouTube. I am back at it, and that's what I'm working on right now, as I'm pre-cutting slits so it's easier to take off the detail. Maybe that was too close. Maybe back it up to here. I'm using a Dremel for that, so just using the Dremel to cut slits all along. This then go through with either a knife or a chisel and just make it easier to take it off. Alright, it's a lengthy process. It takes time. So, anyway, that's what I'm working on. And just go a little bit at a time. I'm probably going to start clamping it down and working on it because it's getting to be a bit vigorous. Alright, YouTube, I've cut all the spots that I'm going to trim out. I think I'm just going to use the same cutting tool from the Dremel to just go through and cut it out. So I'll film that. Like that. Of course, I'll fix it with sanding and shaping with files and stuff like that. So that's what I'm doing. Well, there we go. Shape's been cut out. And then I got to do the other one. I'm actually going to buzz this a little bit, smooth it around before I do more proper shaping, but just to get it close so that I can kind of get them the same and when I go to glue them together. Alright, and I have used the sander tool on the Dremel to smooth it up and make it better. So as you can see, it looks like a knife handle more now. Okay, so it's getting there. Actually made a tweak and I went up a little higher there, and I might actually bump more of that and give it more depth in here. So anyway, a lot of that will be fixed possibly even later after two pieces are glued together. So, okay. Alright, YouTube, I've got both pieces trimmed, and I've lined them up so that the opening part for the blade is centered, and now I'm going to buzz around each side to get them close before I glue them together. Alright, YouTube, I have buzzed them pretty good. They're fairly close to being the same around. And this way, when they're glued together, I can do more shaping. Alright, YouTube, I have marked, you see that little black spot right there? Marked the spot where I'm going to drill a hole for the nail. Where's that nail? There it is. The nail that will go through. It'll be trimmed on either side, but it'll be sort of a point of anchoring. There'll be Gorilla Glue in with it too when I put it through. So once the blade is in there and everything. So just so that you can see the blade. It sits there like so. Alright, YouTube, I'm going to glue these two pieces together. So since I don't have a small glue thing, I do have some Gorilla wood glue, but I decided I didn't want that glue oozing out everywhere. So I'm actually just going to pour a little bit of glue like so, and just do this. Just take your fingers, rub it in. There. Alright, it is, let me turn it so you can see, set with clamps. Okay, and just to show you that it's centered. Okay, so that I didn't get it off. So that was my test. So there we go. I'm going to let that dry. I don't know how long. Probably overnight. Alright, YouTube. Let's see, this might have too much shadow on it, but anyway, That's the handle, and I'm actually going to do shaping and fine grinding with the sander tool on the Dremel. There we go. Got it on its lowest setting so I don't overgrind. Okay, still got a little bit more work to do. Now I'm going to do the taper on it. Alright, I have mostly done with the shaping, contouring it. So, as you see, it's very ergonomic, and now you see what I'm talking about. I might do a little more grinding, some spots like around up in here, and there were some lines here that need to be smoothed out, so it's getting there. Alright, I smoothed out some more of those lines. Focus in, focus in, focus in. It's a little blurry. Anyway. Alright, there you go. So now I'm going to sand it by hand to smooth it out really good. Okay, I have sanded it with fine grit, and it's probably about as good as I'm going to get it. I do have carpal tunnel and stuff with my hands, so I can only do so good. But anyway, like I said, I mean, if you look at it, it might not be the most attractive knife handle, but it is extremely ergonomic. And that was what I was going for, was an ergonomic handle, where this goes right to the palm, thumb goes right there, finger goes right there, and the other fingers are right there. This will be a really good carver. Just so that you can see, be a really good utility outdoor bushcraft knife for not being carbon steel. This would be really cool. There you go. I was going to put a hole here for a lanyard, but I think I'm going to skip that. But anyway, I think I might be ready for the next process, which is gluing the blade in and putting the nail through there. So, alright. Okay, next bit is I'm going to cut that nail down so it's just like a pin that gets hammered in instead of it looking like a nail. So it is a tad long to go in here. I'm not sure if you can see that, so I got to trim it down. Let me put it down here, maybe it's in view there. Okay. So I already know I want to take the point off, because that's going to be, you don't want the point sticking out when it makes it through the other end. There, tip came off. Tip is off. Get these on. There we go. Let's put it my hand against it. That fits through that. So next bit, Gorilla Glue. I probably should put some water down in there. 1 second. I almost missed the step. I had to wet that. It makes the glue adhere better. So, and I'm just going to put a whole lot of glue down in here. I don't want to put too much because you want to be able to actually get the blade down into it. So let's push it all the way down in there. It's in there pretty solid. And I don't want to wait to put the pin through because I don't want that glue to get hard. So let's see if I can do this on camera and not mess it all up. Pin is through, and it is in there, and it's going to glue, and that'll set overnight. When I come back, I will be working on the staining of the wood. Alright, YouTube, I am ready for the last stage of this, and I've mixed up my own acrylic stain, and just mixed a bunch of paint and some water together. So basically all I'm going to do is brush it on, and then I'm going to wipe it off, and I'll repeat if I have to repeat this I will, to get the desired color that I'm after. There's some blue in it, there's some black, there's some red, there's some brown. Really watered down. Alright. Please excuse the sound of the air conditioner. It just kicked on. Alright, so I went on, and now I'm going to do that. So I might not like this color tone that I'm doing, and I might go back and redo it with a different color. There's a little too much blue in it because there was some paint in that. But let's try it again with just the brown. Go over it. More brown than anything. There we go. That's really more what I'm after. There we go. That's what I'm after. Wipe it away. Anyway, there you go. It's got a rustic look to it. I'll let it dry, and I might go over it again. I might sand it and do it again. So anyway, that was the first stage of it. Alright, YouTube. That's how it came out. The stain that I tried last night, which was a homemade stain from acrylic paint. I don't like the way it came out, so I'm going to sand it, and then I'm going to just use some regular old mid-wax, like some mahogany finish, and that's kind of the color I think I really want anyway. So anyway, here we go. Notice I'm holding with a piece of leather. So I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to go get a wet cloth and wipe off the dust. Alright. Just, I said wet cloth, but I'm just going to use a wet paper towel and that's fine. Basically just want to get some of the dust off. Okay, and you see it's looking a little different now. Yeah, it's starting to bring out the... So it's going to have a mix of finishing going on there, so it's actually going to create something unique. So I'm going to put on this glove. Okay. Basically, once I brush this on, I'm going to wipe it down. I got some paper towel right over there because I don't want to leave it too thick on there. Alright, so I'm gonna hold it like so. I'm holding it with this piece of leather so I don't cut myself. I'll just give it some sturge. Yes, that's a word I just made up. Okay, I'm just going to brush it on. It's going to make it look really cool. I should have just done this in the first place. This is like yeah, that's a good color. All right, so looks like that right now. Let's see what happens. So you take it and you just wipe it down. There we go. That's what I was going for. A wood brownish color. Alright, there we go. You're not really seeing it. Let me back it up a little bit. There we go. Yeah, okay. So that looks great. That's what I want. And I'm going to let it dry. And it'll be ready. It's basically done. And I mean, just to make it good, you just wax the wood down. But it really it's going to be a really good looking knife. So I'm just going to like do that for now. Yeah. There you go. Looks like almost a professional knife. Like I said, it's very ergonomic to the hand, especially for my hand. So yeah, as you can see, there's still some stain that is bleeding through, so you do that. But anyway, I'll stick this in a clamp with the blade and just let it sit and dry. But anyway, now I am super happy. Alright, YouTube, the handle for the knife is done. Completed. I've waxed the handle. There's one bit of this. Let me do a little bit of that. And close. And let me flip it. Okay, there you go. As you can see, it's totally ergonomic to the hand for me. Really good. Very ergonomic. Whether you want to grip it fist, carving, even like that's good, and even like that's good. So, it's a good knife. There you go. Alright, YouTube, if you like this kind of content, please click like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and leave a comment. Thanks for watching.